Hey everybody, I'm Alex McClellan.
And I'm Mason McClellan.
And we're the Backtrack Brothers. Today, we're reviewing Jurassic Park. We're going to start spoiler free, and then we're going to go straight into spoiler territory. Nothing's going to be off limits. We're going to have more spoilers than a Fast and Furious movie.
There's going to be timestamps in the description if you want to skip over certain things or skip to certain conversations.
But why would you do that? Watch the whole damn thing.
Exactly.
Duh.
What are you doing?
It originally came out in 1993 and was directed by Steven Spielberg. The screenplay was written by David Cope, pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name, and he based the screenplay off of a novel written by Michael Crichton. Now, Michael Crichton, you may know, wrote and directed the original movie Westworld, which a lot of our viewers will know as the hit TV series that was spun off of that movie now. But Michael Crichton is was a very popular author. I'm sure a lot of your parents and grandparents loved him. Quick plot synopsis, I'm just gonna read it off here. We have John Hammond, who's just this rich investor, tech guy who owns safaris and crap. He's developed a safari on an island that's 120 miles off the coast of Costa Rica. It's called Isla Nublar.
Yeah.
Now, this is not your standard safari because they have dinosaurs. Yeah, dinosaurs. So, he has to have researchers come in to approve this new park with dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
We'll get into why I say it that way later. They have to bring these researchers to get approval for this park before they can roll it out to the public and, make a bunch of money. So that's the whole idea. During the visit with these researchers, things do not go well.
Spoilers.
What kind of movie would there be if there's no conflict? They show up, everything goes well, park signed off, end of movie. 15
Look how cool this dinosaur park is. Done.
Yeah, done. Cool. 15 minutes.
It's like 2 hours of people enjoying the park.
So Mason, why don't you lead this off? What's your personal history with Jurassic Park? Did you grow up with it at all? Do anyone in your generation? Do you guys hold on to the newer Jurassic Park films? Do you guys ever go back and watch the old ones? Kind of give me that idea.
So for a while, I didn't even know there was an older one. I thought Chris Pratt and his whole line of movies were the first ones, and I thought Jurassic Park was just like another name for Jurassic World. And I felt like I thought Jurassic World was the original one.
Okay.
For a while, until I was like, 12, 13, a few years back, where I learned about the old Jurassic Park movies, but I always thought, oh, the graphics will be so shitty, the dinosaurs will look like Play-Doh, and it's just gonna be awful. The Jurassic Park movies have very different tone than the Jurassic World movies, which again, we'll explain. Right.
Have you seen the original three? Like the original three as a trilogy, or have you only seen the first one of the original?
Of the Jurassic World or the Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park.
Only this one. This is the first time.
You've only seen the first of the original three, but you've seen all the Jurassic World films?
Yes.
Gotcha. My background, Jurassic Park, so this movie came out in 1993. I was born in 91. So obviously this was something that was huge for children my age, because it was literally, I'm 5, 6 years old. It's in the VHS collection, and I just grab it off the shelf, watch it whenever I want. It was just one of those movies. Other VHSs that Spielberg directed that were huge at that time, you had E.T., which came out in 82, and then Hook, which came out a couple years before this. Do you know about Hook?
I do not know about
Hook. is take real life Peter Pan, Robin Williams plays adult Peter Pan, and Dustin Hoffman plays Captain Hook. It's like a live action. It's actually really good. It's way better than it has planned on being. I mean, it's directed by Steven Spielberg. Back in the day, right? No, it's really good. But I feel like that's a movie that's been lost with time.
Yes.
Anyway, subverting back to Jurassic Park. So, Jurassic Park was huge for merchandising. In case you can't tell by my Jurassic Park shirt.
Oh my God.
So. No, but it really was. So I had all the Jurassic Park action figures. So every single dinosaur that was in this movie, every single dinosaur that's in this movie, they sold the action figures. So the T-Rex, the Brachiosaurus, the Stegosaurus, like everything. You could find all of them. And I had all of them. And I had a Jurassic Park backpack that I remember
you're one of those kids.
It was yellow with a green Velociraptor on the back. It was badass. Who's going to mess with a kid with a Velociraptor on his backpack?
You like to you're the one wearing a Jurassic Park button down.
It's ironic. I'm just saying, when I was in first grade, when you were 6 years old, you had weird things that you thought that you wouldn't have now, right? Yeah, exactly. It was just a different thing. For me, it was Jurassic Park, because that was a movie that came out then. For you, it was, I don't know, what was it? What movies were coming out in 2010 that you would have gotten hooked on?
Frozen.
Oh, no, you know what it was? Minions.
Oh, my God. You
guys were into Minions. Oh, Jurassic Park's so stupid. Hey, people die in my movie, okay? You're repping Minions. minions. Yeah, hell out of here. My lord. That's the equivalent. You making fun of me for having a Jurassic Park backpack is like me making fun of you for liking Minions at 6 years old. It's completely reasonable. All right, Mason, you kind of went into this a little bit earlier, but let's have you expand on it now. What did you think of the visuals in this movie? Not only with the dinosaurs, but just kind of overall throughout the whole film.
So for the best visuals, the landscape shots of the the ocean and the island and everything was really good and really colorful and stuff, and that's what a lot of movies back then lacked, was color and vibrance. And I thought
that's something Spielberg was really good at. He's really good at creating a world, submerging you in it, getting those wide scoping shots, kind of give you that scope.
And the dinosaurs themselves, who again I thought would look like Play-Doh, actually looked realistic. And I know, like, you know, some of them you could tell they were like puppets or something, but a lot of them actually looked very real, especially the bigger ones like the T-Rex and stuff. You tell they put a lot of time and money and effort into them. And it looks really good for 1997.
93. But yeah. But no, I agree. I totally agree. I obviously go back to my childhood days, think about how these dinosaurs just blew my mind when I was a little kid. And I still get, my heart flutters when they had the first reveal of the dinosaur when they're driving up on the Jeep, and then it's the, I don't know the name of dinosaurs, I'm sorry. I think it's the Brachiosaurus, whatever it is. That's the herbivore that's jumping up and eating out of the tree. It's really cool. It's a really magical moment. The score swells up there. It's a great moment. It still is very powerful for me, and even now, and I don't think it would be as powerful if the visuals didn't hold up as well as they do. Especially like the T-Rex, you know, at night things get a little easier. You can kind of get away with a little bit of CGI stuff. So I think it was kind of smart doing the T-Rex at night because it made it even, you know, more menacing, but made it more look real too. The Raptors, I think, is what really was impressive visually, because they're in broad daylight. Like they are just in a kitchen, reflecting off of stuff and making noise. Like they had
climbing on stuff and like knocking stuff over, and it all looks very realistic and terrifying because of that.
100%. Yeah, in the Raptors, you know, even like the texture of their skin, and you know, the last video that we put out in this format was about Avatar, and a complaint I had about all the creatures in Avatar, they look like, it looked like they were sprayed with grease. That's not the case with any of these. All these dinosaurs look like they have actual scales, and look like it just looks like whoever put together these models visually really took a lot of care and emphasis in trying to make it as realistic as possible, and you can tell 20 years later. It makes a difference. So yeah, I actually think the first Jurassic Park holds up better than the second or third Jurassic Parks. I think they kind of start going a little bit more hokey, a little bit more CGI focused, like with some of the second and third films. Not talking about Jurassic World, not talking about the newer movies. I'm talking about the second and third of the original trilogy. I think the first one is the most cinematic and the most visually impressive of the three, for sure. So yeah, don't worry, it's only going downhill from here. We're not gonna cover those other two right now, but Mason, if you take the time to watch them, or viewers, if you take the time to watch them, hold back your expectations for the second and third. They're not that great.
I mean, even this movie, the visuals aren't flawless. I had issues with some of the scenes. There were a bunch of like light rays coming out of like tunnels and stuff like that. In a lot of the scenes, they used a bunch of smoke, made it look like a middle school bathroom.
No, that was something that I saw with, especially the opening scene. I don't like the visuals with that. It was very confusing. You don't really get a good idea of what's going on, why, what happened. And to your point, it's a lot of strobe lights flashing and smoke for no reason. There's no reason for either of those things to be happening, really. So one of my favorite moments when you see them actually see the dinosaurs for the first time, because the character's bewilderment is supposed to, it really does match the bewilderment of what the viewer is if it's your first time watching, right? It's literally, you know, their breath, they can't even talk. They're completely, breath's taken away from them. Malcolm Gladwell, you know, Dr. Malcolm, the only thing he can say is, "The crazy son of a bitch, he did it." That's the only thing he can mutter. And I think that's what everyone in the theater was thinking when they first saw this movie. You know what I mean?
I mean, one thing I want to bring up quickly, for me, who's seen this movie now in like a modern age, I feel like those moments, like there's a ton of like look up, camera pans to the character's face, all surprised for like 10 seconds, and then it shows out. I'm like, I know there's a dinosaur behind the camera. You don't have to hype it up. Like, I know there's a dinosaur or something there, and it wasn't breathtaking to me.
And I think that's a perfect example of just over time, you've already gotten that experience from other movies. But back in 1993, when people were going to see this film, a lot of people hadn't seen a good, authentic replica, essentially, of dinosaurs on film. If you watch like what dinosaurs were viewed as on film previously, like I'm thinking of, I don't know if any of our viewers will know this, but The Land That time forgot, it's literally puppets and like action figures. It's really bad. I think that was from the 70s. So it wasn't that long ago that they were getting like action figures. Think about like the old Godzilla films.
Yeah.
It literally is puppets and action figures. It's very obvious. To have a real movie where they look like they're real breathing animals is pretty impressive in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Mason, what are your thoughts on soundtrack score throughout this whole film? There's not really any music per se, but the score is definitely there throughout the whole film.
It's very horror-esque. And with like mainly silence broken by like a big dramatic noise or something like that during all those like tension and action scenes, and then with like the large shots and something like cinematic happening with the dinosaurs, to have like a big cinematic orchestrated music performance
score.
And it's good.
Yeah, and that's where, that horror score is definitely what's in place for a lot of the film, especially when you're talking about the latter half, like once the storm hits, T-Rex, blah, 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 not gonna get into too much spoilers, but one thing I really like is the contrast of during the happy scenes when they're first showing up and like the kids show up, there's a very contrasting positive score that comes in. It's very light, it's very majestic. It's supposed to kind of get you to feel, it's going to pair with that visual cue of look at this big dinosaur, it's going to blow your mind. And that's supposed to, the audio is supposed to be like, oh, that's going to stir all that up in your, in your gut, or the hell you call that. When Laura Dern is going through her little mini horror final girl segment, the score there is excellent. It pairs super well with, the jump scares and other things that happen there. I think it's super, super duper effective.
Totally.
One thing I think is really cool is how they sprinkle the Jurassic Park theme in a lot of different formats. So like, you have the main theme, like when they're first showing up to the island, like, dun, 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 that whole thing. So, but then if you notice throughout the movie, they'll have it in the background, but in different ways. So like, I noticed in one segment, they'll do it with just little chimes, where it's like little little rings of bells that hit the same tones. Like I think in one of the more like horror segments where they're kind of like escaping after the Raptors or something, they have a whole segment where it's that Jurassic Park theme, but it's like dark and slow and like plucking guitar strings. And it's like, so they're using the same theme, but they're using it in different ways and in different environments. I think that's really cool with different instruments as well. All right, let's start talking about some of these acting performances. First up on the docket, we're going to talk about Dr. Alan Grant, who's played by Sam Neill. He's kind of our protagonist, supposed to be the guy that you're supposed to kind of follow, have your foot in his shoes. What do you have your feet in his shoes? What did you think about his performance?
So I thought he was good. I thought he was like, an emotional department, and his breathtaking like reaction to the dinosaurs, I thought all that was well put together. Yeah. He does kind of have like this weird look on his face. He'll go like a lot while he's just like either like talking, giving like a long monologue. Especially
when he's talking with the kids, there's a few moments like when the kids are starting to warm up to him where he kind of gets that Joker smile on his face. It's almost like, it brings up a root question that I have about this character. And it goes back to the fact that he like hates kids to the umpteenth degree. I've never seen somebody, there aren't many movie characters that hate kids more than this guy. You saw the newest film, right? What did you think of his performance in that?
I thought he was a little bit worse.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought it was really bad. I thought he was so bad in this newest film.
He did not seem to be really like confident. I don't know.
No, he doesn't have the charisma, and that's where I'm sorry. I just realized I never said what I think of Dr. Alan Grant. I think he does a believable performance as an archaeologist. I think he definitely brings that stoicism, that calmness that you would expect from someone in that position. His relationship with the kids is super odd. We'll get more into that in the spoiler section. His relationship with Laura Dern's character is super odd, where they're like together, but he doesn't, neither of them really show each other affection that much. But I also don't really see his character giving affection in that way, so it kind of makes sense. So it's like he's just this weird dude, which I think is supposed to be, he's an archaeologist. I imagine they're supposed to be weird. And this guy just lives out in Montana dusting off bones all day.
You might offend the archaeologist
all of our archaeologist viewers out there. Sorry, we lost our archaeology subs. But no, I think he's fine. But I think what carries him is that he is charismatic. I think he's got a good, when he's not doing his Joker smile, I think he actually has a good charismatic smile. He's got a good voice. Like, he's just kind of like has that man's man feel about him to some degree. And in this newest film, that's gone, because now he's just an old man. So he's not scruff anymore. He's not like, no one wants to bang him anymore. He's not gonna help you in a survival situation. He's way too old. So it's like one of these things that all of this stuff that kind of, I think, made him a good protagonist in the original movie, he doesn't have 25 years later, which isn't that surprising, but it just was sad to see that in comparison to the next person we're going to talk about. Dr. Ellie Satler, played by the magnificent Laura Dern. You want to go ahead with this one?
I thought she was really good. She was,
Damn right.
everything,
She was awesome.
Everything that the guy did, it was that minus the creepy shit, and which made it good.
Yes, agreed. And what I like is that I think she's a really good female character for the 90s. Like, this is a time where you're either a wet mop or you're just a sex symbol or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, she manages to not do either of that. She's not a wet mop. Like, she actually is actively engaged. She has good lines. She has, like, good points that she makes during all the discussions.
She's a good character. She's not like a perfect female.
Right. She does have flaws. Like, but she's a real human character that I think people can relate to. She has a real purpose because she has that botanist background that no one else has. You see it being put to use when they find the Stegosaurus that's sick and she finds the plants. It's just nice to see not only a well-played character, because Laura Dern's a great actress who's still doing great stuff now, and she was awesome in this newest Jurassic Park movie. I thought she was the one of those three that really brought it. But also in this original Jurassic Park, I think she's probably my favorite of the three coming out of this most recent watch that I've had. I think she should have had the spin-off and let her own movie. Honestly. And she should have just showed up, spoiler alert for the second or third movies, or sorry, mates, I'm going to spoil these for you. She shows up like later on in the second or third movie, and like she's married with someone else, and like it's this weird freaking thing, and like, she's involved, but I remember her character is not as good there. Like, they just could have done so much more with her. She could have been the star of these future movies. And I don't know. And I guess I'm just saying, I love her character. I love what they did with her. Laura Dern had a great performance. I wish that she could have continued riding that momentum into the future movies, but unfortunately that didn't happen, in my opinion. All right, next let's talk about the guy who's creeping us out the entire time, Dr. Ian Malcolm. What did you think about him?
I thought it was a great, like, comic relief character, kind of there, like the, model badass guy, but he was serviceable. He could do his own thing. He had a purpose.
Yeah. I think it was kind of sad that in the last third, he's basically just stuck laying down just with a walkie-talkie for the last third. Because he does have so much potential as a character. I would have liked to see him in more. But he does have all the best one-liners. He definitely has some of the most engaging speeches, even when he's talking about, not only is he comically engaging, but when they're having the philosophical discussions that come up in this film, he's really the strongest proponent. He has very strong feelings, and he'll stick to them. And he will not stop telling you about whatever his theories or beliefs are. Whether it's chaos theory,
the butterfly effect,
or how water trickles down fingers, he'll tell you what he feels. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about John Hammond, who is played by Richard Attenborough. I almost said David Attenborough, but that's the narration guy for all the whale films or whatever. We're talking about Richard Attenborough, who's not that guy. I don't know if they're related. Don't ask. But
I thought he was good for what he had to do. I mean, he was energetic. He was charismatic. Hammed it up a little bit, was very into the role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And he's supposed to be playing this kind of like billionaire, eccentric, rich guy. You know what I mean? I think he does a really good job with that. One thing I thought was really funny when I was kind of like putting my notes together for this, and I thought he, especially when he's early in the movie, and he's really happy, I thought he kind of had this like jolly Christmassy, Santa Claus vibe to him. And I looked at his IMDb. Turns out he played Santa Claus
I know. I looked at it.
Yeah, a year later. And I was like, what are the freaking odds? I was like, I freaking nailed it. But yeah, so one thing I thought was really interesting, to your point, and I don't even need to go into spoilers to talk about this. So early in the film, he's very gregarious, happy, charming guy, bringing everything in.
Yeah.
What I think he does a really great performance of is that over the course of the film, that deteriorates.
Yeah, he gets more of a mood switch. He regrets decisions. He becomes more depressed inside, closer to himself, whatever.
Right. Well, yeah, and he's upset that what his goals are not going to be met, without getting into more detail. And he doesn't let it completely consume him because he's still helpful to the very end. Yes. But you can see he goes from being this fun, charismatic guy to by the end he's downtrodden, alone, in the dark. It's a very interesting shift. And if you watch his performance, you can see him have those ebbs and sways. And even in early, you get little inclinations of it, like when he's yelling at that nerd doofus hacker dude. You can kind of see his dark side come out a little bit in that scene. But that's just like a blip in the beginning. But you can see it progress over time. It's really
very powerful.
Yeah, and it's something that I think you need to be a good actor to be able to pull pull that off. All right, referring to the nerdy guy I was just talking about. So now we need to talk about Dennis Nedry. Dennis Nedry, who's who's played by Wayne Knight,
yes,
who is probably most known from Seinfeld or Space Jam. I grew up with seeing him in Space Jam, so that's where I knew him from. But I think a lot of people that are into Seinfeld know him as the Newman character.
So again, I think he handed up. He's definitely energetic. He's definitely very into it, and
his giggling when he sprays out the barbasol can is like. It's really ridiculous. Like he cannot control himself. He's in public in an open air restaurant. He's giggling about shaving cream. Shaving cream. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
So again, I'll speak more on his character and what I think about him in spoiler section.
I think he does his job. He does what he was asked to do. These were a lot of the types of roles that he had in these films, TV, whatever. Is he's just kind of a goof, mess up. Newman characters infamously annoying and a mess up and whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. I understand why he had to be in the film. He's obviously a catalyst for future actions that impact all the other characters. But at the same time, I don't really like how he's used because he's so silly.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get into specifics later, but some of his segments of the movie were so silly that I almost felt like it was taking place in another movie. And anytime I have that feeling, I always wonder if there's a better way it could have been done.
Totally.
To blend it in with the rest of the plot. And the rest of the
exactly what I think.
Yeah, and it's something we'll talk more in detail later. But in terms of him and his performance, I think he did what they asked him to do. I just don't think he was used in the best way. And I also wonder how that character is in the novel.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's different, if they had to dumb it down, or
what if he wasn't as goofy in the novel and they just made him a comedic relief character in the...
No, that's a great point, because it's definitely possible that they saw this movie and they thought, oh, we need something with more comedy in it, so they throw in a sound effect, they throw in a little thing that he messes up or whatever, and then you get it. But I don't think it was necessary. I think it would have been played more straight, and I think it would have been more effective. Last person we have to talk about, because he's one of my favorite actors, Samuel L. Jackson, who plays Ray Arnold. Great name. Do you have the appreciation for Samuel L. Jackson yet that you will have at some point in your life?
You're kind of adapted. You're kind of growing into it. Yeah. With Kill Bill and now with this. Yeah. It's definitely sinking in.
Oh man, and wait till you're old enough that you're gonna watch Pulp Fiction and like Django. He's great in Django. There's so many. So I think Samuel L. Jackson, he's my personal favorite like side character to have in a movie. And really, I think that's where he's always thrived. He's had movies where he's been the lead guy, but I feel like his best performances are where he's paired up with somebody, or if he's like the B or C character in the plot.
That's with some cold one lines like "grab your butts." Like I want him. I want him to what? Hold your butts.
Hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts. Not grab your butts. Not grab your butts. Hold on to your butts.
Such a great line that he says it twice.
He does say it twice.
Yeah, he says it twice. Whoever wrote that line was like, I wonder if that was in the book. Do you think Michael Crichton wrote that line?
No way. That was definitely
that's worth a Google.
Choice.
That's worth a Google. Alright. One thing I love about him, this is just Samuel L. Jackson, I bet he probably brought this to the set, the cigarette smoking. Like he's smoking that thing down to the freaking filter, dude. He's smoking the filter. And but it works because it's supposed to show the level of stress he's in at that moment while he's trying to figure out what's going on with the situation with the computer. And he's so stressed out, he doesn't realize he's smoking the nub of his cigarette. But that's like the physical acting that he brings, and he always smokes in his roles. He's always, but it's like the ultimate Samuel L. Jackson prop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't wait to show you so many movies.
I'm good.
Your hair good?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, everybody. Mason got done finishing his hair, and we're ready to go into spoiler territory. So, if you haven't seen this movie yet, it's time for you to go watch it, enjoy it.
And come back to this video and watch it and enjoy it.
Exactly. See? So in this area, everything's free game. We talk about plot, characters, jokes, whatever you want to talk about. We do a spitball fashion. In general, we're going to try and go chronologically throughout the film, but pretty much no rules throughout this section. All right, Mason, let's get us kicked off. What's the first thing you want to bring up?
So I did not think the villain, aka Dennis, because he was like
John.
the main, he was one.
You need to write down these names and keep them in front of you.
Wait, who's Dennis then?
There is no Dennis. There's no Dennis. There is no Dennis. Oh, Dennis Nedry. Yeah, I forgot.
Well, there is a Dennis.
There is a Dennis, but it's literally the one guy. You really don't need to know his name. I call him Barbasol Man.
for Dennis, you know how we
Not Dennis! Are we talking about Dennis?
Talking about Dennis. We're talking about
You're
Dennis.
saying that, so hold on, but what's confusing me is you're just saying the villain. And I think in this movie, there's really two villains. Dude, stop calling him Dennis. No one calls him Dennis. Who the fuck is Dennis? No one knows Dennis. Say the nerdy guy. Everyone knows who you're talking about. No one even on this video knows who Dennis is. No one cares. You can call him Newman.
Dennis's name.
You can call him Newman. You can call him. There's like 8 different names you can call him out of Dennis. Sorry, it is driving me nuts. Because now that I think about that, what are you supposed to call Nedry? Call him Nedry. Nedry is
the nerdy guy. There you
go. Just call him that. Yeah.
So, how the nerdy guy incorporated himself in the plot. I did not think, like, according to the intro of him being introduced, I did not think he was going to be a villain at all. Obviously, he was very weird, so I thought he was just going to be like a weird, like, comedy relief character. Okay. But instead, Jeff Goldblum kind of took that role as like the one-line comic relief character. So I was like, oh, okay, so what's this guy gonna do now? And instead, he kind of turned into the villain, shutting the whole systems down.
Right.
I don't know, I just didn't expect that at all, and I wanted to hear.
Yeah, and like, it's one of those things, it's hard for me to say now because upon rewatching it, especially being an adult. So in that opening scene where you see that nerdy guy meet up with the, whatever corporate guy meets up with to get the barbell saw can, and they negotiate the whole deal and blah, blah, blah. When I was a kid, like, I could give a shit about the first 20 minutes of this movie. Who cares? And until the first dinosaur showed up, I was not paying attention at all. It's actually one of these notes I have here. I didn't understand anything about why anything happened in this movie until I think I watched this like 5 years ago. I was like, oh, the reason they're going is because this, Hammond needs to get approval because of the opening death in the movie. I thought the opening death in the movie was just supposed to show raptors are bad. End of story. I thought that's what the opening scene was. I was like, raptors are dangerous. Raptors are bad. Like, I thought that was the whole thing.
Just set the tone. That's it.
I mean, you see raptors at the end, so I was like, oh, okay, beginning and raptors, you tie it all together. That's cool. No, I didn't understand. No, that death in that first scene is the reason why everything in this movie happened.
Yes.
And it's something that blew my mind when eventually I realized it. But like I said, when I was a kid and I watched it 100 times, I was just burning through the VHS. I probably fast forwarded through the first 20 minutes. I probably stood at the VCR and just watch
the bar go by.
Yeah, exactly.
Just dinosaur go back, come back.
Well, no. That wasn't even a thing, man. I don't need to go on old tech alert, but literally, they didn't have the bar. You just had to watch it, go at super fast speed, and play. That's what you do. You really stand there and watch it go super fast. Some of them wouldn't show you. It would just be black, and it would just go, and you'd be like, that sounds like it's a third of the way through. Yeah, now we have like DVDs with chapter selection. That was mind-blowing to me. I was like, dude, I can just, section 8 of the movie, I want to start at this scene. Oh, look, this starts right here. Click. It's amazing.
We're talking about a dinosaur movie.
Yeah, sorry, I'm totally off track. So, to me, now watching this movie as an adult, I can see he's at least up to no good because he works for Jurassic Park because the guy is telling him, I need you to get all the specimens out. I'm going to pay you this money, which, you don't meet at a table with some shady dude with sunglasses on who's offering you $1.5 million unless you're doing something really shady. It's just what's going on. And so I think you kind of just have that inclination now. But yeah, as a kid or like my first time viewing it, I probably would have thought less about it. You know what I mean? Especially because you're so distracted by him blowing the stuff in his hand and giggling like an idiot, you're probably not thinking about the plot ramifications. Another thing about our boy Dennis that I hinted at earlier in the video, I didn't really like how they just had to comic him up. And when I really, to get into spoilers now, when he's about to die, he's getting attacked by the poison lizard, when he falls and literally he slips like he slipped on a banana peel, it plays the
straight out Looney Tunes.
And they played the sound effect from Looney Tunes. It was like, floop, and he just goes down and cascades down the water. And of course, his glasses fall off. He does a whole Velma routine. Oh, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? And then decides, oh, I don't need glasses. I'm just going to drive this Jeep in the woods with no glasses. And then gets up. And then is killed. Very unceremoniously. Oh man, it's just so dumb. I just think it's a very, very dumb scene in what is otherwise a generally pretty smart movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just really bothers me. I just think there's a better way they could have done that scene.
Totally.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to note, so now that I'm an adult and I actually process the information of what happens in the first 20 minutes of this film, I now understand that Dr. Grant and Satler are literally doing all of this for 3 years of funding for their digging. You realize, like, I'm sure that they thought when they were signing up for it, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna go check out a park. But like, no, you're going to a place where there's T-Rexes running around. This isn't just a park. Like you realize when he advertised, was like, oh, come check out my safari. He just called it a safari park.
Yeah.
He's like, has other ones. He's like, I have one in Africa. This one's way better than that one. So they probably thought, they were like, oh, I'm gonna go check out some chimps and some goats and whatever. No. No, instead you're gonna risk your life for 150 grand for 3 years of digging. Yeah. I just thought that wasn't very equitable in hindsight.
No.
When they're leaving, they should definitely be demanding more than that, right?
Way more.
Yeah. One thing I loved as a kid, I wanted to get your feedback on it. Yes. What did you think about, so they do the whole demo where, after they first see the dinosaurs, they bring them in and they show them that video. It's like the DNA thing. And first off, that's where I get dinosaurs from, because that's how John Hammond pronounces dinosaurs. He says dinosaurs. So I, in turn, always say dinosaurs. So when they get the video and they have I forget the DNA guy's name, but the DNA guy comes in and they explain it. What did you think about that? Because I remember being a kid, I thought this is and I also think this now, it's a very effective way to explain the science of what's going on to kids.
Yeah, I thought it was a good way too. Yeah. And I agreed. At least to me, aka a kid, right. I understood it very well. So it must work on anyone older than me.
It was one of those things where it was like, the artwork it was even crappy back in the day. Yeah. So you're not supposed to be impressed. It's supposed to be a crappy illustration video. One thing about that instruction video though, the John talking with Video John, and John forgetting he has lines. Yeah. Like that whole thing was crazy cringy. Like even for today's standards, like that was really, really bad. That little raptor being born was so freaking adorable. What'd you think?
I mean, I thought it was adorable. Besides all like the red little juices and stuff coming out of the egg. Did you notice that?
Well, what do you think you looked like when you shot out of your mom?
More adorable than that. More adorable than that.
No. You had way more juices. You were doused in juices. You held it up, but you know how slippery babies are? It's because they're covered in juices.
I'm sorry, I don't know how slippery babies are.
Oh, you'll find out. You got one in the other room. Let's go. One thing about that, though, that I thought was weird about the Raptor is that, if you notice, Hammond says, I'm here for the birth of every dinosaur that's here, because the first touch that it makes is imprinted, so they all trust me. And I call bullshit. This guy is supposed to be the head of this giant park. Yeah, he's able to make it work in his schedule. He shows up for every egg hatching. Bullshit. That's not true.
They have like 8 eggs in that.
That's what I mean. Right, and it wasn't like they were all cracking at the same time. So is this like, does he just, I know he doesn't sit there.
Someone calls him down. He has like, some people like escort him out.
Right.
Like,
well, my whole thing is, it's just an unnecessary line. Just take that line out. Why have that line in there? There's no need for it.
I think you brought this up earlier.
Yeah.
Alan is so mean to kids.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about this.
Part of this character progression is just not being a dick to kids. He shuts the door in one of the kids' faces. Yeah. He threatens one, because he didn't put respect on the dinosaurs or the raptor's name.
He should.
So he
called them 6-foot turkeys.
Says it'll slit your guts open and take your liver out.
With a claw in his hand.
With a claw in his hand, rips it.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's funny? My memory from when I was a kid is that he did actually rip his shirt. He doesn't rip his shirt. He does not. Yeah, but for some reason, going back to it, I expected the shirt to be ripped, but it wasn't. He may be a sociopath. Yeah, based on the smile, based on how he doesn't like kids, based on the fact that he basically doesn't show any love interest in his girlfriend. Yes. Which ends up paying off in future movies where they're not together. She does ask in the beginning of the movie, why don't you like kids? Yeah. And all of his answers are honestly pretty fair. They stink, they're expensive, they're loud, they're annoying. All fair points.
Yeah, but I wish there was a little bit more of a reason or some sort of backstory of something that happened with one of his kid or something. Right. Because
maybe his parents were killed by a kid.
Like a Batman arc.
Yeah, exactly.
I get revenge on all the kids.
Yeah, and then it turns into the Step Brothers scene where they're all just kicking the shit out of kids out of the playground. But no, so to be fair, and I will also say this, I also think it's very odd how Alan eventually just snuggles up with these kids in a tree. He literally goes from he hates these kids to all right, he has to help him out of 1 or 2 jams, and then let's all snuggle.
Yeah, he saves the boy, he saves the boy from a tree, and he's like, okay, now we're all chill, we can cuddle up in the tree while we watch them dinosaurs eat the leaves.
Right, exactly. Which, to be honest, I think Timmy, who's a little boy, I think Timmy should have been able to get down from the tree by himself. I think, honestly, Alan going up in the tree might have contributed towards the Jeep ending up going down. I'm just saying, it's a thought.
Yeah.
It's possible. I'm just saying, Timmy and both of those kids, oh my God. All right, let's just get into this.
Here we go.
Why are they there?
Have something to root for. And you have them to grow for not hating them.
Aside from plot purposes, aside from just movie functioning purposes, the park is not open for a reason. Someone just died. It's the owner's grandkids. It's not the gardener's grandkids who got smuggled in.
It's like, oh, this is safe for you guys.
Dude,
people I care about, I'm just gonna have you around dinosaurs.
You have a lawyer and researchers here to deal with the fact that people are dying in your park, and you're like, oh, bring the grandkids. Don't like it. What are we talking about? It's crazy. So, the fact they're even there is mind-blowing.
The girl didn't even like the dinosaurs.
No, yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, she's the worst. All right, so here's a perfect example. So how I was saying how I love Laura Dern's character.
Yes.
She was given a role, all that stuff. So take all that positive stuff I said and to completely invert it and apply it to the little girl. She is a wet mop who does nothing but scream, and she has no redeeming characteristics other than she discovers she's a character hacker. And the girl is literally the worst character. And it's not the actress's fault, it's literally just Kitty. She's basically just told, cry, scream, be annoying as shit. And she does a great job at it.
And be vegetarian.
Yeah, and be vegetarian. And be, make sure to be be contradictory for every single moment of this film. Always make sure there's a possible problem. It's fucked up. Anyway, the boy, he at least has some type of
connection to dinosaurs, has some sort of...
Right, he loves dinosaurs. He's really into archaeology. You can see that with how he attacks Grant with all his questions, which ends up getting him shoved in the car door. Yeah. Which honestly, if I was Grant, I might have done the same thing. I'm sorry, but that kid was annoying as shit. And sitting in a car, imagine if they did get in the same car and the power went off, like it did. That's the nightmare. Nobody was happier that they were in the car they were in than Alan when that power went out. That is a fact. And you can tell by the fact that he takes 8 minutes before even attempting to rescue those kids once the T-Rex comes into the picture. That's my favorite shot of the movie. Yeah, that's my favorite shot. Him and Malcolm are just sitting there watching the T-Rex flip the Jeep, and both are like, those kids, they're fucked, man. Those kids are fucked.
I wish someone could help him, man. That sucks.
Well, this is perfect, because I wanted to get to this scene, right?
Yes.
Because I think we see throughout the whole movie, until the tail end, these kids have no survival skills. These kids have zero survival ability. When that T-Rex thing happens, they do the worst thing you could do every step of the way. Actually, not even just the kids.
I want to bring this up real quick. They have a flashlight, and you can't turn it off.
I know.
Just flip it upside down, and
that's what I'm
the
saying.
light wouldn't shine. Instead, they're like,
that's what I'm saying.
Plummeted it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. But yes, to your point, exactly what you said about putting the flashlight straight down. There are so many solutions to the problems that that happen to them, and also most of the problems are their own doing. Yeah. So the flashlight, the only reason the flashlight's on is because she turned it on. What are you doing turning on a flashlight and shining at a giant monster? What are you doing?
You just say what it is.
And then when someone tells you to turn it off, you then yell back and forth at each other, I'm trying to turn it off, but I can't turn it. Just throw it, break the glass. There's so many options.
And shut your mouth. And shut your mouth.
And shut your mouth. And then not only that, they're moving everywhere. They're shifting the balance of the Jeep. Like, they're literally asking to be eaten. They did everything they possibly could to have died in that scenario. And they're so lucky that Dr. Malcolm ran in there with his little flare. Yeah. Otherwise, they would have been screwed. I also want to say this. The lawyer proves to be the biggest idiot of all.
He runs to the bathroom.
And you do understand, there's no benefit to running to the bathroom. No benefit. There's no benefit.
The dinosaur sees you running in there. It's completely wood, completely destructible. Exactly. And you sit on the toilet. Just if you want to sit on the toilet, just shit your pants.
Right. Well, no, he just says, I don't know if he thinks that the toilet's going to protect him, but it's not good. Imagine he goes into the bathroom, because the T-Rex didn't break out of the enclosure at that point. Yeah. If you remember, at this point, he ran out as soon as he saw the T-Rex. When the goat leg hit the top of the car, he was out. Let's say the T-Rex just stays in the enclosure, which you would suspect was going to happen. And then the power comes back on. Yeah. And then the Jeeps go. Where's he?
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom. What are you doing, dude? The only way that was a smart move is in no way. As you saw, T-Rex got have to anyway. If the T-Rex stayed in the enclosure, you weren't going to make your way home, so you were going to be stuck in the woods no matter what you did. You were going to die. As soon as he left that Jeep, he was dead. Yeah. No matter how the rest of the movie played out.
100%.
It's just mind-blowing to me. One thing I wanted to bring up, because I thought this was super creepy. We talked about how Dr. Malcolm was weird with Statler, all that different type of stuff, right? With the drips of water on the hand.
It was too
Meanwhile,
long.
Statler's boyfriend, right next to her.
I know, he doesn't do a thing about it.
Right next. She actually even says, Alan, look at this. Alan leaves the Jeep. Malcolm, I would have not blamed her for banging Malcolm. No, he is caressing her hand. She's basically saying, hey, honey, look at this man groping my hand. And he's like, I'm out.
I can't deal with yeah, it's cute. He's like,
I think there's a dinosaur out here. This guy's trying to bang your girl right next to you.
Caressing your hand, dropping a little water, rubbing her wrist.
Yeah, like he had already been flirting with her the whole movie up until then, basically. And then decided he should ask a question. And then Grant responds with, well, yeah, obviously, asshole. Like, that's not what he says, but that's basically what he says. And I don't blame Malcolm at all.
I don't blame him at all. He didn't show any affection.
None.
He was looking for dinosaurs or anything, like not comforting his wife at all.
It's a problem. It's very weird. It's just very odd how Malcolm and Statler have more affection between them, chemistry and affection between them than the actual boyfriend-girlfriend couple. It's very odd.
Yeah.
I just wish they would have acted on it. It should have just ended on that. Our boy Malcolm here. I did want to point out two of my favorite one-liners that he had when they're on the dinosaur tour and they haven't seen any dinosaurs. And he looks up at the camera and he like knocks on it. And he says, hey, eventually there are going to be dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right? It was amazing, great. And it's just a great Goldblum delivery. And then the other one, after they're chased by the T-Rex and he's laying on the bed, he's like, I wonder if they're gonna have that on the tour. It's a good line. It's a little corny, but it's effective. Yeah, it's effective. I mean, dude, it's 93, man. Like, that's what it was. I have a few different scenes where you have the scientist and Hammond and the lawyer and all these different people that are kind of debating whether what they're doing in Jurassic Park is right.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting discussion. And I think that they do a really good job of kind of portraying the capital view, the capitalist view, where you're talking about the money and giving people the experience and comparing it to a flea circus and being like, oh, it's not that, these are actually living creatures. And but then you have the flip side of trying to control nature and being God essentially and bringing back these things that were extinct and extinct for a reason and all those different things.
And some of these points relate to modern zoos or sea aquariums and stuff like that. Like there's a bunch 100%. Of controversy with SeaWorld.
Right. Oh, 100%. There always has been.
Controlling animals and stuff like that, controlling nature. And
I think, and that's one thing I really like about this first Jurassic Park film compared to the other Jurassic Park films, and I'm sure at least, especially with these newer ones, they are so heavy-handed. And there's obviously messaging of, environmentalism and protecting animals and stuff in this first movie, but it's not as on the nose as you see in like the more recent movies. It was just something I thought was interesting. But I like that they even had that philosophical debate because they didn't need to have that, right? They said this is how we do it. Here's dinosaurs, run away from dinosaurs. But they didn't do that. They took time, multiple times in the movie, to have a discussion about what they were doing and if it was right and why. And
there's that one dinner scene with the Santa Claus guy and the wife.
Yes. The Santa Claus guy and the wife. Hammond and Satler, yes.
I was describing these guys in 14-year-old terms.
I was going to say, when I was your age, that's how I described the characters as well. And eventually I was like, I should start knowing people's names when I'm talking about them. Yeah, go ahead. But yeah, so
I thought that scene was really good. It was. I agree. She's a great actor.
Yeah. Oh, real quick. I love my favorite line I have written down here. He's talking about, the next time we do this, we'll have more control. And then she comes back and she fires back. You never had control. That was the illusion.
Yeah.
Oh, she was so great. I was like, yeah, Laura, you know. No, but that's real because it was, and that's like very much you're talking about like the business perspective. They're thinking, okay, we made a mistake this time, we'll just do it again. We have the resources, we have the time, we'll do whatever. Versus like the ecological, scientific viewpoint of like, no, empirically what you're doing is wrong. You didn't just make a mistake on this one run and you'll get it right on run 2.
It's the whole concept.
The concept is wrong, exactly. Yeah. So it's cool seeing that discussion happen because that's real. That's real life. Like, it is. I just want to talk about about the Raptor sequence at the end. I feel like we have to hit it. It's probably the most iconic sequence in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's scary as shit.
I love it.
It's amazing. It looks great. It still sounds great. Just all the little sounds like just happen like that.
It's the only scene where I like the kids.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. The kids all of a sudden have all the survival skills. They can even mess with perception on reflections all of a sudden. Can't turn off a freaking flashlight. That is one thing that was a problem. That's one thing that I watched that scene. I'm like, all of a sudden they figured out how to survive against raptors. But meanwhile, the warden gets hunted by the raptors. Perfect. Oh, that was one of my favorite things. When he thinks he's gonna take down the raptor, and he gets taken down from the sides. I love that. Grant describes it earlier in the movie, and then it pays off in the end with it coming. I love when movies do that. That's where you get effective filmmakers where they can tie themes, even from talking about the raptor in the first scene, and then we're ending with raptors. Like a lot of times when you look at movie plots and structures, a lot of times stuff that'll come up early, we'll bring it back up at the end. It kind of, it's kind of like having cover on each end of the book,
Yeah.
But yeah, those raptors, they're terrifying, they're effective, you can see how smart they are. When they open the freaking door, oh my God, that's like one of the scariest things ever.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, that was like a nightmare I would have. It was like being in my bedroom and that Raptor Neill just, and I didn't have,
it through the door.
I had like a round knob that they couldn't even do that with, but for some reason I'm just like, man, they just turned it. But yeah, so it was just, I absolutely love that Raptor scene. I think most people do.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's incredible.
All right, so these are a few odds and ends that I had, just quick problems I wanted to bring up. So again, the flashlight, that was stupid.
Yeah.
There's one quick scene, I don't even know, you probably don't even remember it, because it was so insignificant, but
Don't tell me what I don't remember.
So, there was,
not that old.
when they were getting...
I watched this movie twice in the last week, I might remember.
So yeah, the seatbelt scene where they're getting lowered down, it's so insignificant.
It's completely insignificant.
Like, they all buckle in, he realized, oh, my buckle's not working. They stress out for like 5 seconds, he's like, oh, I can just tie it together. Boom!
Yeah.
It's done.
And they're
Problem solved.
And they're landing. It's not like they're like flying over an ocean if he doesn't get it on, and they're going down. Like it's not what's going on. Like they're safely landing on a helipad.
Yeah.
So you're telling me he went the whole flight without a seatbelt, but right now we all have to panic.
He's not gonna have a seatbelt. It's like parking a car. It's like, oh God.
Right. No, it made no sense. And it's so funny too. Like that used to be like an old gag, like the whole idea of somebody not being able to figure out like their airplane buckles. But I don't know, is that still a thing now? I feel like people have figured out the airplane belt buckle by 2022, right?
100%.
I think so. But yeah, I guess maybe people related to it in 93. I don't know. That was very weird to me too. It's very odd.
It's so bad.
All right, what else you got?
The opening scene where they're screaming, shoot her! Zoomed into his mouth.
Yeah, as the hand is like squeezing through the arm. I always thought it was a really weird visual.
I did not like that opening scene at all.
Yeah,
it sounded like a witch.
Yeah,
it's like zoomed into his mouth all the way.
So yeah, in that first scene, even the logistics of it didn't make sense to me, right? So they load up this cage with the raptor in it to the edge of this other cage, right, which is open. So they wheel it up. It's on wheels. You can tell because they're all just pushing it straight, right? Yeah. There's a guy on top of the cage whose job it is to lift like the door of the cage holding the raptor, and the raptor is supposed to theoretically run out of the cage into wherever this contained environment is, right? Which sounds like it would work. What doesn't work is when the cage is on wheels and you tell everybody that was holding the cage that was on wheels to back up. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
I don't even know why. They all obviously pushed it up, so there's obviously not a safety hazard with them being that close to the cage.
Yeah.
And the reason that the cage moves is because it's on wheels.
Yeah, on wheels and they're pushing it.
I guess what I'm saying is, I don't understand how this worked once. Like, this must have been the first time they tried this method, because there's no way it makes sense in like physics.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. They move the cage up. The people who are holding the cage that are on wheels back up. So therefore, there's nothing holding these brakes, unless somebody was supposed to put a brake, like a lock on the wheels. And someone, I wonder if that's what happened.
I feel like that's something that the writer director would make up after the movie came out, though.
Right, like that's what I mean. Like it's just that whole opening scene. Logistically, it doesn't make sense that shit would fall apart the way it does. Because basically, what happens if you look at it is he opens the door up top. The cage, for some reason, moves back. He falls. Yeah. And then the raptor, assumingly, must be somewhat outside the cage at this point, because it grabs him. And then here's what really doesn't make sense: the raptor pulls him into the cage. Why wouldn't he grab him into the forest
And run,
into the enclosure? Why would he back himself into the cage? It just, none of it makes sense. It just, I don't know. I took a really long time explaining this really stupid scene, but like, it's just, that opening scene does not make sense. If you watch it and try to say, okay, X led to Y led to Z, you'll never be able to make that connection. I'm just gonna toss it out there. I think archaeologists are the hippies of scientists. They just sit outside in the middle of nowhere and dust off rocks. Agreed?
Yeah. Sorry, archaeologist fans again.
Yeah, once again, you're getting shit on. You're probably a bunch of alcoholics and stoners. You know, other scientists are in, you know, very risky, scary situations. They're mixing chemicals, or maybe they're working on like cutting edge research. Yeah. These people are sitting around dusting off dinosaur bones.
I'm gonna dust off some rocks. That's like that's the extent that they go.
Exactly. I'm just saying, it seems like one of the easier archaeologists are not gonna like this. It seems like one of the easier paths that you could go down.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of the reason there's probably not a lot of money in it. Another shot fired at the archaeology community. When I was a kid, I didn't know what Barbasol was because I didn't shave my face. So I thought it was whipped cream. So as I got older and I thought when he was like giggling about it coming out, I thought it was because he was excited. He's like, oh, I can get whipped cream whenever I want. That's what I thought it was. I didn't realize he just thought it was cool technology.
I did not think of that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Probably because you watched it as an adult. But if you watched it when you were 5 and you didn't know what Barbasol was, I wonder how many people had the same thing I had. Yeah. I'm just curious. You did bring up earlier the seatbelt situation.
Yes.
It made no sense to film that. I don't understand what the joke was. Like, he's supposed to be an archaeologist. He can't put his freaking seatbelt together.
There's not one person who's filming that's like, hey, maybe this scene doesn't work, or maybe this scene's unnecessary. Everyone was like, this is good. Let's put it in the movie. Even while editing, there's like, this makes sense.
Exactly, and that's what I just thought was like, it's amazing it made it through the editing room. That should have been on the editing room floor for sure. 100%. Yeah, I don't know if you're supposed to feel like, oh, he's so, you know, he's like a MacGyver where he can just tie his seatbelt. Like, I think that's what anybody would do. I don't think there was nothing impressive in that. I don't know. It just seemed weird. I think this was good writing. I don't know if it was in the original book or if this was something specific for the script, but there were some specific lines where people, like, they didn't have a full understanding of what was going on, kind of just had a weird turn of phrase. For example, the lawyer, when he sees the scientist in the lab, like when they're doing the tour, he asks, are those autoerotic? Instead of like automated, like a robot. Like, it's just funny getting that little terminology mixed up. I just really like little writing notes like that. I think it's really easy to miss. There was another one when the blonde girl, the younger girl, sees the when they wake up and they see those dinosaurs for the first time and they're all singing. She asks, are those meativores instead of carnivores? And it's really funny. I always find that type of writing.
I don't remember any of those lines. I think they really just slid off.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I think it's something that maybe you don't catch it in like the first time you watch it, but it's really, those little lines I think are really funny. I always just appreciate little stuff like that. Mason, what do you think in terms of how Jurassic Park holds up in 2022?
So I thought the dinosaurs in general looked better than I thought they would originally in 1993. And I thought that the writing was good. Some of the characters were a bit weird, and some of the placement and characters and their actions and just stuff like that was off-putting, especially for a serious type of movie.
Right, yeah.
But overall, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice. I think that's a pretty decent score. My heart's a little bit closer to it. I have a bit of bias because I grew up watching this movie so much and everything like that. I think the dinosaurs held up great. All of those feelings I felt when a kid came rushing back to me. So coming up from a 90s kid has a little bit more emotional pull. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Could even creep up to 9.5 depending on my mood that day. But really, I think it holds up great. And I would highly recommend it. If you have not seen Jurassic Park, please watch it. You don't need to watch the rest, but please watch the original.
Please watch the first.
Yeah, and then reconsider joining in the newer ones. They're visually way better. The plot's thin. It's not very complex. There's definitely some weird, controversial stuff in there. Even those more recent movies still give that good, exciting dinosaur element that you want in a good, just action flick.
Totally.
Thanks for checking out this video.
Like and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about the movie in the comments below.
Let us know if there's any movies you want us to watch. Who knows? Maybe we'll watch them together.